So how can we improve student sense of belonging at a community college level where they have a lot of lack of confidence about their academic potential and ability to succeed? That was the purpose of this study. So if you want to see the full pre-registration, it's available at OSF. You can just use that QR code or go to that link above. So there's a lot of research supporting the idea that positive emotions such as my focus, which is gratitude, and to a lesser extent accomplishment, can improve people's cognitive resources and help them reach a better level of well-being by learning better coping strategies, better resilience, creativity, and of course the social interactions, which is very important when we come to the classroom dynamic. Now, I was particularly interested in gratitude. There's lots of research showing a positive association between gratitude and all different factors that contribute to well-being. There are also studies that showing that gratitude interventions can directly decrease stress and enhance well-being in different populations, including undergraduates. And there have been some studies with students that show that gratitude interventions have improved student motivation, achievement, and engagement, if not directly improving student outcomes, then at least indirectly by improving their sense of well-being. Now, I'm also targeting accomplishment. There's less research on that, but what is there shows that it can increase happiness and lessen depression. So the purpose of this current research was to increase students' sense of belonging. And I got my inspiration from the Gates Foundation Sense of Belonging study in which I participated in fall of 2023. I got great feedback from students, and for that matter from the tutoring center, saying my students really felt better about the weekly check-ins that just basically asked how they were doing and encouraged them to interact with fellow students. So my purpose was specifically to investigate the effect of encouraging gratitude and accomplishment via free writing prompts on student outcomes, sense of belonging, and well-being. I used a longitudinal repeated measured experimental design that lasts a semester or an 8-week short session. I have some students doing that. I still haven't had enough to compare. It's ongoing. I'm going to briefly report what results I have from my initial semester, which was spring of 2024. At that point, I had not started the Clear Action Fellowship, but it's definitely appropriate, and that's what I'm using for this with some improvements that I've made. So the procedure. Students in my classes, and originally in spring of 2024, those students of Becky Kola and Krista Maytubby, are given the opportunity to participate in the first week of class. I made a whole bunch of Canvas assignments that are sent out on a weekly basis, and then I shared them with Becky and Kristen. And what it is a pretest, which they have to take before the conclusion of week 1. Then there's writing reflections on even weeks, then very brief pulse surveys on odd weeks, mid-semester well-being check-in, and finally a post-test that's due by the end of finals week. For spring of 2024, we had approximately 500 students at the beginning, but as usual, we had some attrition, and our final post-test saw only 261 students. And of course, those aren't the same 261 that, for example, participated in the middle of the semester activities. So I'm going to briefly cover the instrumentation. The pre-test was administered via Google Forms. You can access that with that link. Feel free to take it if you like. It included a self-efficacy scale, a short version of Dweck's mindset, or the belief that intelligence can be changed scale, general anxiety, the academic behavior confidence scale, which is just how confident they feel in the ability to learn, get good grades, speak up in class, so forth. I used that 3 times. Okay, and different stems. Every odd week, so weeks 3, 5, and so forth, they had a very short, about 1-minute brief survey that just checked in with them and let them know that, I was interested in their well-being. So they had a Likert scale where they had to indicate their agreement with statements such as in my class this week, I feel comfortable with the idea of reaching out to my instructor or to my classmates and so forth. In the middle of the semester, they had another survey which included the academic behavior confidence scale. At the first time, academic sense of belonging, which I'm really interested in. They completed that again at the end of the semester. That's perceived peer support, classroom comfort, isolation, and faculty support. The one thing you want to notice here, so all these are sub-alphas. That's the internal consistency, reliability of the scale. Notice that for perceived isolation, it is not very strong, possibly because, of course, the community college students are going home to their families and so forth. So I take that into consideration for future results. They completed a state anxiety and a trait happiness scale. Post-test included the academic behavior confidence, academic sense of belonging, and the satisfaction with life scale. Now here's the really interesting part. So my idea was that having students take a brief 5 to 10 minutes every 2 weeks during the semester and just disengage and reflect on something, either something they're grateful for, some sense of accomplishment, or the control prompts were really just letting them address any kind of concerns with certain neutral prompts along the way. So they got this. The first survey, they were randomly assigned to condition within the Qualtrics platform. So here's a few examples. Gratitude prompts included, please take a moment to think of a person you are grateful for today. Once you have that person in mind, take 5 to 10 minutes to tell us about them in the space below. Who are they? What makes them special? Why specifically are you grateful to have them? Now, each condition had 8 prompts, and they were randomly assigned to one of them. Accomplishment prompts were, for example, please take a moment to think of a recent accomplishment you have achieved or a difficult relationship you are successfully navigating and so forth. And finally, control. I created these mainly to not target gratitude and accomplishment, but I found that sometimes people did talk about gratitude and accomplishment. So there's a lot of data cleaning I need to do. So for example, please take a moment to think of a person in your life, a meal you have eaten recently, and so forth. Other than that, they were matched. So we also controlled for affect, positive and negative affect, and they completed that after each writing reflection task. And for manipulation checks, we used the gratitude questionnaire and accomplishment scale, both Likert type, just to make sure that people's scores in gratitude were higher after that prompt and so forth. I also used text analysis, and I still need to clean the data. I need to look at every single response and so forth. But I did want to give you a few preliminary results from that first semester. So in that first writing reflection where they are randomly assigned, there was definitely more positive affect in the gratitude condition, followed by accomplishment and control group. There was no effect on negative affect. And finally, I used Pennebaker's loop to do text and analyses of all the reflections. Interestingly, students wrote most in the control condition and least in the gratitude condition. So potentially I'm going to have to control for word count in the final analyses. Now I also looked at different key areas using Luke's main categories as well as gratitude and accomplishment and education, which I created. So you can see that so text analyses were greatest in, gratitude was greatest in the gratitude, and accomplishment in the accomplishment. So great, there's a manipulation check. But we also noticed that social processes were most frequently referred to in gratitude. So those are everything about relationships. And curiously enough, the drive for affiliation, belongingness, was also highest words that referred to that in gratitude condition. Accomplishment was highest for education, interestingly. Achievement, power makes sense, reward, and so forth, and authenticity, which was interesting. The control group used more language that reflected anger, anxiety, sadness, risk, insight, future focus. So keep in mind this was where people had the most freedom to just, talk about what they wanted to. Oh my goodness, I'm almost done. Now, very quickly, gratitude was lowest in reference to education, which might be interesting. Authenticity, anxiety, and so forth. Accomplishment lowest in positive emotions and anger, so emotions in general, right? Less social processes, so more individual focused. Control lowest in gratitude, certainty, and power. Okay, so it's time to finish now. I have some examples of what people wrote here at the end of this PowerPoint, which I'll make available in PDF, as well as all the items on all the scales. So thank you very much. So sorry it went on too long.